Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, my mom asks entitled mother to let go of my hair, refused and got her life ruined. My parents apologized, my sister did not. At least at first. A estranged sister's former stepdaughter thinks she deserves an inheritance from our deceased father. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. My mom asks entitled mother to let go of my hair, refused and got her life ruined. When I was a kid, I never cut my hair. No matter what, I never cut my hair, so I had very long, pretty, dirty blonde hair. And as a kid, a lot of people would ask to touch it. And I was fine with it, as long as they had my permission. So when I was 6, my mom took me to a grocery store to buy some things for dinner that night. We got to the store and my mom got the stuff she needed, but was missing the bread from the other side of the store. She sent me to go get it since I was fast and small. When I got to the bread, I picked out the brand we would usually buy, and at the time I really liked baguettes and other types of breads. So when I saw the baguettes, I totally forgot that my mom was waiting for me and grabbed a loaf and headed back to my mom. So when I was heading back to my mom from the bread aisle, I felt someone pull on my hair, and not gently, no, they yanked it. They pulled so hard I thought my hair was going to come out. And I cried so hard my mom heard me across the store. It turns out it was a kid about my age who wanted to touch my hair, so his mom, and I say his 40-year-old mother, pulled my hair so her friggin' kid could touch it. My mom rushed over and told the lady to let go of me. This is basically how the conversation went. EM equals entitled mom. M equals my mom. Me equals me, duh. M, let my daughter go. EM, my child just wanted to touch her hair, she has very pretty hair. Me, she pulled on my hair, it hurts. M, you could have just asked. You can't just pull kids' hair, I can call the police for assault. EM, you are harassing me, all I did was let my son touch her hair. I can call the police on you for harassing me and my child. M, firstly, I am not harassing you, you assaulted my child. And secondly, you can call the police. You will only be making things worse for yourself. As it turns out, the entitled mom called the police and they took both our statements. The entitled mother had given an over-exaggerated and dramatic report, telling the police, as we would find out later, that I had given consent for her kid to touch my hair and my mom had come out of nowhere and started harassing the entitled mother. My mother had given the police the actual report from her side. I had been asked to give a report, but I was too scared and tired from the experience to say much. They checked the security footage and saw what actually happened. I don't remember the next part, so bear with me here. My mom decided to press charges and sued the entitled mom for assault, and she was sent to jail for 6 months and fined for providing a false police report as the cherry on top. Entitled parents always think they are right. Lucky the law sorted her out. It's always funny how often they lie that they did things properly, like in this case asking permission to touch Opie's hair. They told the police they received permission when they didn't, implying they knew the right way to go about this interaction but chose not to. That's always baffled me. Oh my gosh, I wanna hug little you. What a horrible woman. The best part is the EM was the one who called the police on herself. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I think a lot of entitled people are deluded and really think somehow they are the wronged party. I grew up in Japan, and I had waist-length golden blonde hair at the time. 9 years old. People would always come up and touch without permission. My sister actually started wearing her hair stuffed under a beanie. I grew up in the Middle East with long white blonde hair. Same situation, and it got worse when we traveled. Really skeptical that the mom was sent to jail for 6 months unless this wasn't her first offense, and even then, what exactly would the charges be? Government paying for someone to be in jail for 6 months over an incident like this is just weird. So you think jail time for an entirely unprovoked assault on a minor is excessive? I don't remember the next part, so bear with me here. My mom decided to press charges and sued the entitled mom for assault, and she was sent to jail for 6 months and fined for providing a false police report as the cherry on top. Your mom can press charges, but then the state takes it from there, which was why the woman was sent to jail and fined. Your mom could also have sued in civil court and received a monetary settlement. I would have chosen the latter, since you don't state she did that and seem to conflate sued and pressed charges even though they have different meanings. To go to jail for something like that would mean the woman had a criminal history, as they usually don't jail first offenders in most jurisdictions. Not so much life-ruining, but just getting what she asked for. I hope you are okay now. Depending on where you live, that could be on a public record. Good luck getting a job after explaining you got half a year for assaulting a child. I wore my hair in a long thick braid down my back for most of my adult/teen years. Usually to my waist. People would come up behind me and yank on my braid like a bell pull. Arg, one woman I worked at did it constantly. These are the same people who touch pregnant women's bellies without permission. So inconsiderate and annoying. That is really annoying. Fortunately, no stranger ever did that to me, but one boyfriend did it regularly. What's worse, he knew I suffer from chronic migraines. My parents apologized, my sister did not. At least at first. A week ago, I made this throwaway account to ask AITA a question I was found to be anything but TA in. I have too much to say to post in AITA as an update. So a friend recommended I come here. My posting on AITA essentially opened a Pandora's box in the family. Basically, my parents and older sister had become very comfortable with me helping with the childcare of my young triplet nephews. I didn't leave home till I was 22 because I was trying to save money while also going to college. A scholarship covered a lot, and living at home kept me from getting rising debt due to my working part-time as well. I'm very thankful for this. However, after college everyone just seemed to act like I had endless time on my hands, and convinced me along on a family vacation. In this so-called vacation, I was forced to babysit my 3, at the time 6-year-old nephews. I even had to share a hotel room with them. And believe me, those kids did not listen to a thing I said on the first night until I called their mother, twice. And I was treated like the bad guy for wanting to do other things during the trip. Like, if it's something the family doesn't enjoy as a whole, then it doesn't happen. Which was extremely hypocritical because I'm family and wasn't included in that vote. And you can bet I aired this grievance with my parents after my last post. And they have acknowledged being in the wrong. After that awful vacation last year, I decided it was time to move out. And did so before the summer even ended. Which surprised everyone as I gave them no warning. I'd landed a great job pretty much right after college thanks to an internship, and used moving as an excuse to drop my commute from 45 minutes to 15. My sister hated this the most because it meant no more free babysitting on weekends. But she still tried to make me do it. I caved sometimes. Usually by being bribed with pizza. And this sort of became a new norm. But then last month my parents announced plans for another family vacation to the same place along the coast. And they basically wanted it to go the same way. I immediately saw it for what it was. A trap. I knew that if I rode with my parents and let them buy the hotel rooms, I would be screwed over the same way as last time. So I just casually stated I'd drive myself and pay for myself. And that's when the shitstorm started. When my parents realized they couldn't entrap me like before, they resorted to borderline begging. And my sister practically tried to order me to go with the flow through gaslighting. Newsflash, I didn't. After I didn't cave to my sister's demands, I made the AITA post after days of harassment. And then my sister somehow spotted that post in less than an hour. What followed was Pandora's box. At first the family was against me. My sister called our parents, and they called me when I still had a little time to talk in the morning. My parents were on the phone with me while also reading my post. I asked them if anything in the post was a lie. They sort of steered around it and called the post an exaggeration. But I pointed out numerous details that made it pretty much on the mark. Then I told them to check the comments. There were already far too many to read. I was repeatedly refreshing the page on my home PC and telling them how many comments there were. Then I told them I was sick of their mentality of keeping the peace by forcing me to placate my sister. Then I said I was out of time and we would have to resume this later. Well, my parents were positively horrified that hundreds, if not thousands of people were commenting in a matter of hours. And later on I told them that the numbers had basically doubled and were still growing, which only added to their horror. So I guess they were forced to take a long look at their own actions. My sister tried to call me to be *TCH while I was at work. But my phone was on silent till my lunch break, so all she could do was leave messages and texts. But she was persistent and managed to get through to me when I was eating my lunch. The gist of the conversation was my post had taken our parents away from her side. And now they were mad at her. In the ensuing argument between them, my parents canceled the entire vacation. Yes, they later acknowledged they just passed the blame out of embarrassment and have fully accepted fault. They told me no excuses could excuse the fact they made me their go-to free babysitter when I wasn't even living at home anymore. They did try to backtrack a little by pointing out they never charged me rent while I was in college. But I reminded them kids don't ask to be born, and I was doing my hardest to make my own way. Then I pointed out my father had the same kind of leg up from his parents. They let him live free of charge at home while he was in college. That basically ended any argument my parents had left. When my sister managed to call me at lunch, I presented the facts to her. And she showed her true colors. She implied that I have no life, and that my free time on weekends should be spent helping her because she is tired and unable to even go out without bringing her children with her unless someone is watching them. She is a stay-at-home mother with a husband that makes a decent salary. They live in a pretty decent house that's owned, not rented. And to be frank, my nephews aren't really my responsibility. They just forced them on me and expected it to stay that way. My sister angrily hung up on me. But I'd recorded the call and then played it to my parents later. They were furious. And they basically went to war with my sister. My sister dug her heels in, blamed me, and then doubled down on her belief my life should circle around hers. I told her that was the most narcissistic and entitled thing she's ever said about me. It took days, but her husband finally stepped in and forced her to apologize to me. I'd never seen her cowed like that by anyone. But she was on the verge of crying. It ended up being admitted that one of the reasons I was the go-to babysitter was because my sister didn't trust strangers. It was never about the money. Or was it? Actually, my brother-in-law thought my sister was paying me for my time watching her kids after I moved out of my parents' house. She didn't even give me gas money. Just gave me cash that was enough to order pizza for both myself and the kids, and pocketed the rest. My sister had been shortchanging me for months. He blew up at her when this came out during her half-assed apology, and she was forced to pay me what she owed me in cash entirely from her own savings, which she looked very sore about. Then my brother-in-law apologized to me for his own inaction in letting my sister walk all over me, and promised they'd get a normal babysitter from now on. Yes, it'll cause a bit of a drop in the bucket for them. But my sister will be getting date nights back. Then came the family meeting the other day's evening. We all gathered up at my parents' house, and everything was laid bare. Apologies all around, and whatnot. Then my parents reinstated the family vacation. And yes, I still plan to drive myself and pay for my own hotel stay. I'll even stay in a completely different hotel if my sister tries to revert me to childcare. And I have stated this. She's promised me that won't happen. And if I don't update again after the vacation in another month or so, then you'll all know everything is fine. Good for you. Congratulations. Well done. Yeah, this was the update we all wanted. I mean, I get that having triplets is hard, but they made that decision, not OP. So they cannot expect OP to be on the hook for their decision. Her sister is horrible. Makes me appreciate my siblings. Sad thing to me is that the parents were originally enabling the sister. Well done. Glad BIL finally found out your sister wasn't even paying you. Wow, your sister is beyond disgusting, taking advantage of you, lying to her husband and complaining to your parents. She isn't a good person. Apparently, older sister is not even trying to be a good person. Some people don't. They like being bullies. Yeah, if I was the husband, I'd be keeping a close eye on her for a while. She can't be trusted after pulling that shit for months. Your sister was stealing from you. Not only your labor but also the babysitting money that she was supposed to pay you. There's a term for this type of unpaid domestic servitude, and it's not acceptable in our modern society. She needs professional help of the mental variety. The entitlement of your sister and the fact that your parents actually enabled it, or were just plain out blind to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, family should help out each other, but not to the extent of taking advantage of each other. Plus, your sister and BIL don't even discipline their kids or spend time with their kids, from how their kids don't even listen to you and they kept pawning their kids onto you. And it seems like your parents only pawned their grandsons off on you because you seem to not be bothered by it, and they probably knew how unruly your nephews are too and didn't want to deal with it. Bingo! Why weren't the grandparents the first line of defense and the go-to babysitters? I was so invested in your story, and I'm so glad you have an update. Your sister, honestly not sorry to say it, is a terrible human being and definitely a narcissist. I'm glad the family had your back finally. You won. I'm so happy for you. I'm quite literally grinning ear to ear and accidentally yelled hell yeah out loud, making my soul look at me funny. Estranged sister's former stepdaughter thinks she deserves an inheritance from our deceased father. I recently posted about my estranged sister, who had not been in contact with our father in the past 6 years, and her ex-husband, both trying to get access to their son's college funds set up by my father prior to the family even having his funeral. My estranged sister was only married to her son's father for just over 4 years. The son's father was nearly 10 years older than my sister and had a tween-age daughter, Bree, when they got married. Bree hated my sister. She really wanted her parents to get back together even though her mother had married someone else, so she thought sister was keeping her parents from getting back together. I believe during the 4 years Bree only saw my parents a handful of times, 4 to 6 at most. Sister and Bree's father divorced either just before or right after Bree's 16th birthday. After the divorce, none of the family had contact with Bree or heard anything from her until she started college. Around the time she started college, she contacted me to inquire if my parents had college fund for her. She remembered that my sister mentioned our parents set one up for her half-brother, so she thought they would have one for her too. I informed her that they only set up college funds for their actual grandchildren, not any of the step-grandchildren. Unfortunately, between my two sisters there have been a lot of step-grandchildren who have come and gone over the years. Anyway, on to recent events. No one in our family has heard anything from Bree in about 10 years now. Apparently Bree's father told Bree about our dad passing, so I received a message from Bree. She said, "I heard your father died. Did he leave me anything? I am getting married later this year and I could really use the money to help pay for my wedding." There was no condolences, no sorry to hear about his passing, just straight to "Did he leave me anything?" When I received her message, I had not even received the official death certificate from the state, which is necessary to even begin to dealing with any of the estate issues. I have heard stories about greedy people who show up out of nowhere when they think there might be an inheritance or something. But I am still just amazed by the way some people behave. I also fear that this will not be the only inquiry about possible inheritance I am going to receive. My sister-in-law, who had been estranged from her mother for decades, volunteered to help my wife clean up her mother's house. She also volunteered to make all the funeral arrangements, which were pretty straightforward, so with everything else, my wife gratefully accepted. Years later, we get an inquiry from the IRS about how much of the insurance policy we received. What policy? Turns out that while helping clean out the house, the sale found the paperwork, hid it from us, used it to pay for the cheapest funeral possible, claiming that was mother's request, and pocketed about $30,000. This is the sister who ran away from home age 14, got married and emancipated several years later, repeatedly stole from multiple family members, and was never there to care for said mother during multiple health emergencies, etc. It seems like the people who have the least claim seem to be the first with their hands out. I'm sorry you have to deal with this. When my dad died, my half-sister, who he hadn't talked to in years, and I've seen maybe 4 times my whole life, immediately asked for money to come to his home. Raided everything. Crikey, people don't get better when death comes, they get worse. Disgusting. Sorry for your loss and for you having to deal with this ingrate. Personally, I just respond with new phone, who dis? Then block her. I'm so sorry for your loss, and then having to deal with this. When my brother took his life, his ex-wife, whose money-grabbing narcissism was a big factor in his suicide, contacted my elderly and distraught mother not to offer condolences, but to ask about his life insurance. Yeah, he said I should tell you you're a greedy person and thwap you on the nose with a rolled-up newspaper. So let's set up a time to meet so I can do that. I think people collectively lose their minds when there's a death in a family. I saw my own mother and aunt, they are sisters, who have been incredibly close my entire life, do this when their mother died. Each felt that the other was taking things from the estate that were questionable. This was early 2000s, so there were mass emails among the family that are just embarrassing. My mom and aunt lost about 2 years of their relationship because of these issues. Incredible. Unfortunately, death brings out the ugly, true colors in the surviving family members. Nearly every probate dispute boils down to unresolved psychological issues from childhood, usually involving the belief, rightly or wrongly, that the parent favored one person over the other. In my family, it was my uncles arguing over who should get grandpa's golf clubs. Neither of them were any good at golf. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.